You're listening to Main Street on CBC Radio 196.1 FM. I'm Angela Walker in for Matt Rainey. Spoken word poetry is simply beautiful, and PEI's Bob Jensen is one of this region's best spoken word poets. His words can be soothing, cutting, contemplative, even inspiring. Every once in a while, he drops by the studio to share a few poems with us and to bring us up to date on his latest projects. So it's time now for another edition of Word Is with Bob Jensen. Hi, Bob. Thanks for coming in.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You always seem to have exciting news, and today is no exception.
I have this philosophy that I've had for a long time, and that is take the long shots. And I take long shots every day. And, years ago, I woke up one morning and I thought, with my little booking agency, I thought, I'm going to see if I can book Johnny Rotten, Doc Watson, and Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
So I proceeded to go after them. I couldn't convince Johnny Rotten. Doc Watson was too old and didn't want to cross the border. But Mick Taylor said, yeah, sure, I'll come. And so I just take the long shots, and most of them miss. But if you take enough, the odd one's going to get across the goal line. So, I had this crazy idea a while back that I should try to tour Australia, and to my complete surprise, I found myself booked into a couple of festivals, including the biggest one on the continent. So then I got an even crazier idea that I should try to tour Zimbabwe. That tired old cliche of the Canadian poet touring Zimbabwe. So I have a colleague down there, and I emailed him, and I said, I'm going to be in Australia next March, and I'd love to do some dates in Zimbabwe on the way back, if you think that's possible. I didn't think it would be. But he got back to me almost immediately, and he was excited, and he said, yeah, we can do this. We'll do dates in Harare, Bulawayo, and Victoria Falls, and I'll show you some lions and rhinos along the way. So I'm thrilled to death. We're still working out the details, but it looks like it's going to happen. So I'm very excited about that. And if it does come together, that'll be 4 continents in 2020. North America, Europe, Australia, and Africa.
Just think of the stories and the poetry that will come from those trips.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I travel, I love to write, and I'm already thinking about things I can do. I'm planning to do a live recording at Yakandanda in Australia. It sounds like I might also be able to do something in a church at an actual service, which I find a bit daunting. But, I'm just going to go for it.
Why not,
I'm
Bob?
just going for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Now, the last time we had you in, you were talking about your audio book, and that must be just about ready to be released.
It's very close. Prayer to Morning. We've got the artwork finished. Beautiful painting by PEI artist Karen Gallant. We're going to lay down a couple of cello tracks this weekend, and then we're doing the final mixing, and I'm hoping to have it out by April 1st.
Well, we couldn't have you in without you sharing some poetry, and you've got one you're going to read for us and one you're going to play for us. Let's set up the one you're going to read first.
Sure. I write a lot of poetry about nostalgia for youth. My adolescence was a bit wild, but the grade school years, grades 1 to 6, were just idyllic. I grew up, as I've said before, in Dalhousie, New Brunswick, and we had a level of freedom in those days that I wonder that if kids could even imagine now, and I spent my youth in the meadows and in the forests and on the beaches and on the little islands, and it was absolutely magical. And I often think of those idyllic days, and I'm often reminded of a line from a Ron Hines song where he said, "You barely savor the moment and spend a lifetime dwelling upon it." And sometimes I get a little nostalgic, and that's what this poem is about. It's going to be the last track on Prayer to Morning, and it's called In the Long, Long, Long Ago. From Christmas to my birthday was a long, long row to hoe. when mornings were eternal in the long, long, long ago. And June until September past my window slowly wend, for I can still remember summer days that had no end. A lifetime in each morning, each afternoon an age, and sunshine tightly tethered to each daybreak's bright front page. Along the creeks and beaches I searched for hidden treasure, but overlooked that shining gem a day too long to measure. And I, too young to savor, when time was not our master, a lifetime's greatest glory, those mornings in my pasture. When August was a dream on those dog day afternoons, beneath the pure white wisps so eloquently strewn. From my birthday until Christmas was a long, long row to hoe, eternal rosy school days in the long, long, long ago. In rubber boots and blue jeans I'd take to April's streets, where Joyce in white and tartan made my young heart skip a beat. September and October filled the purple nights with chill, while November's mediocre stab at winter was a thrill. To break the brittle surface of each newly frozen pond would wake the little furnace 'neath the hand knit I had on. But now the sun is fleeting, how it races across the sky, and I, the one repeating, how quick the seasons fly. While every schoolyard cry still a prayer unto the morning, and each sun rising high, the face of God adorning. And I, a child of years now, on this long, long row to hoe, but once I knew forever, in the long, long, long ago.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I could listen to you read poetry literally all day long, Bob, but unfortunately we do have to wrap things up, and you're going to set something up for us.
Yes, I have a little preview from Prayer to Morning. It's a final mix from a track I call A Letter from Kinloch on Thirst. And I live in Stratford, so I often go to the little beach at Bellevue Cove, Kepit Kinloch, and write there. And as I mentioned in an earlier interview, I had written a book of poetry interpreting the paintings of Chagall. And I enjoyed that so much that I continue to sort of keep in touch, as it were, with Chagall. And sometimes when something inspires me, I'll write a letter to Chagall as a kind of a prosaic poem. So that's what this is, and not to sound corny, but it's kind of a love song to artistry. So this is Letter from Kinloch on Thirst from my upcoming audiobook, Prayer to Morning.
Thanks again, Bob.
Thank you. Dear Chagall, these tidal flats are anxious mark for one who is endearing, a child as bright as you to lift them to the easel of posterity. My cove is open-armed like a singer on a stage before his final bow, ready for those rolling waves of love, beating on the shores of affirmation, up and down the coast of aspiration. For each man has a canvas in his heart, Chagall, but only those so favored by the gods as you may save a day like this with oil and sable, mixed with love and gratitude, that willing hearts like mine might still behold its steady burn through days of rain and cold that seem eternal. And those who turn the seagull's carefree flight to buoyant notes caressed of wood and string, pluck wonder like a harp from the ether of the firmament, and hold it for all mankind as a prayer offered to artistry and witnessed by the love of God himself. For God did not make souls in the forge of his ambition for labor or for tedium, but as a constant craving for righteousness and beauty. For what is wine, Chagall? No matter what the vintage, no matter it be red as blood or fragrant as a rose, if not for thirst. This is what a soul is for, and God's unyielding gift to man is more than simple beauty. His greatest of all gifts, Chagall, is thirst. For the tree whose roots reach deep into a watery source will never cast an anxious glance onto the blue horizon for a promissory note of cotton tumbleweeds rolling in from heaven like a salve to soothe the cracked, hard skin of River Jordan. And they who thirst in winter's bleakest days and yearn for one small ember in the hour of total darkness when the whereabouts of Saul are yet unknown, turn hopefully to those as you, who fill the world with color and the air with trills and harmonies to keep the redbreast sharp and save the brightest rays of warming sunshine for the darkest days of winter. For such as these are mirrors to reflect back unto God those places in our hearts, like this, my lonely cove, before the blossoms yet have shown the blush upon their cheeks unto the morning. All was dear Chagall whenever I see beauty, taste it in the air, feel it in the burn of salty streams along my cheeks. Do I sense the love of God imbued unto my breast for those who paint their small bouquets, raise their holy voices, and share the tender gift of their affection with we who live in poverty of spirit through the night and who daily yearn for beauty and devotion. Your most affectionate friend in poetry, Bob.